here in front of me I have two. This one is taro root. Taro root is a Hawaiian and Polynesian staple crop. Its actual crop is a root crop. It's a starchy tuber that's an energy food. As you can look, and this meets our criteria or our question about root division plants, is first off, what's the most obvious thing? Maybe the big leaf is obvious, but there's no seeds really, there's no flowers, and if you watch this grow throughout time, there's not going to be much of that. It is not woody and upright, and not usually do you see many little baby plants popping up around it. The question then becomes, well, is there much happening above ground? And as you see, this plant doesn't really have much happening above ground. It's quite, it would decompose quite quickly. It's really just, filled with water. That's a sign that we propagate the root. So, if we decided that there's not much going on above ground and that there's probably a more likely chance that there's a big root, let's find out. Let's dig these guys up, get the roots out, and we'll take them over to our propagation station. Our first example of root division is the taro root plant that we pulled out of the field. You can see the leaf is here. The astute observer would notice that these plants have sat out a day or two. They're a bit slimy. That's alright as long as you keep them in the shade, and if it's dry you keep them a little watered. This is a root division, and you might even be tempted to call it a plant division, because when you actually break off a root, you see it's a whole new separate plant. But because the root is where all the energy is, this is a new plant right here. So this is a taro root. You could plant this in a bag. These would be quite small. You could plant it in a tray here to get them growing, or you could just plant it right in the ground. Taro root likes moist, wet conditions, so ideally you have a condition like that year-round on your property to plant this, and I wouldn't even bother planting it in the propagation station. I would take the roots here, divide them out. There's another one. You see its own standalone plant. I would look for the other ones. There's a nice fat worm, and there's another plant. So as you see from just this one thing, we got a nice harvest. That root we ate, and then we got this bulb. We got another bulb. Each of these are new taro root plants. So again, if your site is not prepared and you want to give your plants a head start, you could plant these in a tray or in just a small little garden bed that you keep quite moist all the time. And then when your site is where it's going to be growing for the rest of its time before you harvest it is prepared, you can move these plants out. If you were to plant it, I would prune some of the roots so that it would be a little smaller. I would break off some more of these roots, and possibly you have to cut them. And then I would dig it, and you always plant it a little deeper than you think. Just the tip should be sticking out, if you can see that. So there you have it. Multiple malangas, or taro root from one plant.